Welcome back to Stamps Old World UK, the channel where the past speaks through postage. Today, we're diving deep into the story, history, and current market value of one of the most captivating and historic stamps ever issued by the United States Postal Service, the 1928 International Civil Aeronautics Conference commemorative stamp, commonly referred to by collectors as the Wright brothers 2-cent airmail stamp. If you've ever laid eyes on this stunning red stamp showcasing a Wright flyer between the Washington Monument and the U.S. Capitol, then you know this piece is more than just a bit of paper. It's a tribute to one of humanity's greatest leaps, the age of flight. Let's begin with a little history. On December 12 through 14, 1928, the United States hosted the International Civil Aeronautics Conference in Washington, D.C., marking the 25th anniversary of the Wright brothers' first successful flight in 1903. To celebrate this groundbreaking event, the U.S. Post Office Department issued a special commemorative stamp. This 2-cent red stamp was designed to commemorate aviation progress and honor the Wright brothers' pioneering spirit. It features the iconic Wright flyer in mid-flight, flanked by two of America's most enduring symbols of government and freedom, the Washington Monument on the left and the United States Capitol building on the right. It's not just a beautiful stamp, it's a symbol of innovation and international unity in the air age. The stamp was issued on December 12, 1928, and it was printed using the flat plate method in red ink. Millions were produced, making it accessible to the general public at the time. However, despite its large print run, its historical value and connection to aviation have made it a favorite among philatelists around the world. So what about today? What is the market value of the 1928 International Civil Aeronautics Conference stamp in modern times, in today's dollars? This is where things get interesting. The value of this stamp can vary significantly depending on several key factors: condition, centering, whether it is mint or used, whether it is part of a complete sheet, or if it includes original gum and is never hinged. For example, a mint condition stamp with original gum and never hinged, perfectly centered, can fetch between $8 and $20 in today's collector market. If it is lightly hinged but still well preserved, the value typically ranges from $4 to $10. Used examples, which were circulated and cancelled, usually bring in between $1 and $5, depending again on the centering and overall visual appeal. However, a special note must be made: if you possess a plate block, especially one in mint never hinged condition, you may be looking at values upwards of $40 to $60 or more, depending on rarity and demand at auction. Even full sheets or multiples, especially in pristine condition, can command higher prices among aviation history collectors and stamp enthusiasts. What makes this stamp so collectible isn't rarity, but rather its cultural and historical significance. This is a perfect example of a commemorative stamp that transcends postage and becomes a storytelling artifact. When you hold one in your hand, you're holding the spirit of the Roaring Twenties, the golden age of aviation, and America's tribute to two brothers from Dayton, Ohio, whose dreams gave humanity wings. And let's not forget, value can also come from provenance. If your stamp was postmarked on the first day of issue, December 12, 1928, and especially if it's on a cached first-day cover, then its value can rise to $10 to $50, depending on the condition of the envelope, clarity of the cancellation, and any accompanying artwork or historical notes. For those of you lucky enough to have inherited one of these stamps from a grandparent or discovered it in an old album, now is a great time to assess its worth. While it may not fund your retirement, it's a highly desirable collectible for its historical relevance and visual charm. And for new collectors just beginning their journey, this is an ideal starter piece: affordable, abundant, and deeply meaningful. In the broader world of philately, the 1928 Aeronautics Conference stamp is often sought after by specialized collectors, those who focus on aviation history, early U.S. commemoratives, or technological milestones. This means that the demand remains strong, especially for well-preserved examples, and values could increase slowly over time. So how can you verify the value of your stamp? You can check platforms like eBay, HipStamp, and Delcamp to see current market trends. Look for sold listings, not just listed prices, because what sellers ask for is often very different from what buyers are willing to pay. You can also consult trusted stamp catalogs like the Scott Catalog, which gives an estimated baseline value based on condition and rarity. Now, before we wrap up, here's a tip from us at Stamps Old World UK: always store your valuable stamps in a dry, cool environment, using acid-free pages or mounts. Protecting their condition is essential to maintaining or increasing their market value over time. Never use tape or glue, and avoid overhandling with bare hands, especially if the stamp is mint. Even the oils from your fingers can degrade its long-term value. So to summarize, today, in 2025, the 1928 International Civil Aeronautics Conference stamp typically sells between $1 and $20, with premium versions, plate blocks, and first-day covers going much higher. While not the rarest stamp out there, it holds a powerful place in philatelic history, and collecting it is like owning a piece of aviation's coming-of-age story. Next up, the 2-cent Landing of Columbus stamp from the historic 1893 Columbian Exposition issue. This isn't just any stamp, it's a symbol of American expansionism, artistic achievement, and the early days of commemorative postage. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting your journey into the world of stamps, this is one piece of history you won't want to miss. Let's take a journey back to 1893. The United States was preparing for the world's Columbian Exposition, also known as the Chicago World's Fair. This global event was organized to commemorate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's arrival in the New World in 1492. To mark this monumental occasion, the U.S. Post Office Department issued the first-ever commemorative postage stamp series in American history, the Columbian Exposition issue. This 16-stamp set ranged in denomination from 1 cent to a staggering $5, and each one featured a different milestone or scene from Columbus's voyages and legacy. Among this iconic set, the 2-cent stamp titled, Landing of Columbus, quickly became the most widely recognized. It features a detailed engraving depicting the moment Christopher Columbus steps onto the shores of the New World, surrounded by armed sailors and carrying the Spanish banner. The artwork was based on a painting by John Vanderlyn, and the engraving was masterfully executed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Its reddish-brown color, fine detail, and historical relevance make it a standout in both visual and cultural appeal. Now, let's talk about its value in today's market. In 2025, this 2-cent Columbian stamp continues to hold its place as a classic must-have item in many American and international collections. Because it was the standard letter rate at the time, millions were printed and circulated. However, values vary widely based on condition, centering, gum, and whether the stamp is mint or used. A well-centered, mint-condition stamp with original gum and never hinged can be worth between $150 and $300 today, with top examples fetching even higher prices from collectors who demand perfection. If the stamp is mint but hinged, you're looking at a market value of $50 to $125. For used examples, prices typically range between $5 and $30, depending on the quality of the cancellation and condition of the paper. As with most classic issues, centering is key. Perfectly centered examples, especially those graded by professional services like the PSE, professional stamp experts, can demand premiums at auctions or private sales. On the other hand, off-centered or damaged stamps, or those with thins, tears, or heavy cancellations, may be worth only a few dollars. But even then, their historical significance ensures they remain treasured by entry-level collectors. Collectors also pay close attention to plate blocks, multiples, or full sheets of this stamp. These are exceedingly rare today, and complete blocks of 4 in mint condition can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the quality and preservation. In fact, one of the fascinating aspects of this stamp is how it bridges everyday accessibility and elite collecting. Whether you're holding a single-used copy or a mint never-hinged plate block, you're engaging with a piece of both art and history. It's also worth noting that this 2-cent Columbus stamp wasn't just the most circulated of the Columbian Exposition series, but also one of the most controversial. Some critics at the time considered the production of high-denomination stamps up to $5 as excessive and unnecessary, catering only to wealthy collectors. But the 2-cent stamp was accessible to all and became a patriotic favorite. It was used not only for domestic letters but also international correspondence, further spreading its image across the globe. So, what makes this stamp so valuable and special, even more than 130 years after its issue? It's the story. It's the art. It's the cultural significance of the Columbian Exposition itself, a moment when the United States showcased its industrial, artistic, and cultural prowess to the world. The 2-cent Landing of Columbus stamp captures a defining moment in world history and places it in the palm of your hand. If you're lucky enough to own one of these stamps, it's essential to keep it properly stored in a dry, acid-free environment, away from light and moisture. Use archival safe mounts or stamp stockbooks to ensure its long-term preservation. Avoid handling it with bare fingers, use stamp tongs to protect it from oils and accidental creasing. If you're ever unsure of its authenticity or condition, consider having it appraised by a certified philatelic expert or grading service. In terms of the broader stamp market, the 2-cent Columbus remains a staple investment piece. While it may not explode in value rapidly like rare error stamps, it offers consistent appreciation and enduring desirability. It appeals not only to collectors of U.S. history but also to those interested in exploration, world fairs, and 19th-century art. To summarize, the 1893 2-cent Landing of Columbus stamp stands today as a testament to both American heritage and philatelic excellence. With values ranging from $5 to over $300, depending on condition and rarity, it remains one of the most iconic and valuable commemorative stamps available to collectors today. Whether you're acquiring your first one or displaying a prized gem in your album, this stamp speaks volumes about how a small piece of printed paper can carry so much meaning, beauty, and legacy. Next up, the United States 2-cent Postage Due Stamp. While often overlooked by casual collectors, postage due stamps hold a fascinating place in philatelic history. They're not just about paying for unpaid mail, they tell stories of a developing postal system, shifting policies, and the hidden drama behind millions of letters that cross the country and the globe. The specific stamp we're looking at today is the bold and beautiful 2-cent Postage Due Stamp, a part of the series that began in the late 19th and early 20th century. The design is clean and unmistakable, a stark numeral 2 in black ink, centered over the word cents, framed by ornate red typography that reads, United States Postage Due. Its functional, almost minimalist elegance is a stark contrast to the portrait stamps or commemorative artwork we're used to, but it's this no-nonsense design that makes it instantly recognizable to anyone involved in stamp collecting. Postage due stamps were first introduced in the United States in 1879. Their primary purpose was to notify the recipient that additional postage was owed on an item of mail. Instead of the mail being returned to the sender, the post office would deliver it and mark the postage due amount using one of these specially issued stamps. The stamps themselves were not valid for prepaying postage, only for collecting additional fees due. In essence, they were accounting tools for the U.S. Postal Service, but they quickly became collectibles in their own right. The 2-cent denomination was among the most commonly used, particularly for underpaid letters or postcards that were short by a small amount. This stamp, with its bold black 2 printed over a striking red frame, is a member of the third postage due issue, which was produced starting in the 1930s and continued in various forms for decades. These stamps were issued both imperforate and perforated, and were printed in different styles and watermarks over the years, adding layers of complexity and intrigue for collectors. Now let's talk about the market value. In 2025, the 2-cent postage due stamp remains a very affordable yet fascinating collectible. Its value is heavily dependent on factors like issue type, print variety, condition, and whether it's mint or used. Most commonly found examples, especially those that were used, can be worth between 25 cents and $2 in the collector's market. However, that doesn't mean these stamps lack value. Some mint condition examples, especially those with original gum and never hinged, can fetch between $3 and $10. But it gets more interesting when you explore the different varieties. Certain overprint errors, unusual color shades, watermark types, and rare printing varieties can significantly increase the value. For instance, if you have a 2-cent postage due stamp with a scarce watermark or an imperfect pair, you might be looking at values ranging from $15 to $50 or more, depending on rarity and demand. Specialized collectors often seek out plate blocks, multiples, or even entire sheets. These larger or well-preserved groupings are much harder to find and can be quite valuable. But perhaps one of the most compelling reasons to collect postage due stamps isn't just the price, it's the story. Each stamp represents a moment when someone mailed a letter, perhaps urgently or carelessly, without the correct postage. That letter may have crossed states, oceans, or continents. And this small 2-cent stamp was the official record of that shortfall. It tells of a time before automatic postage meters, before digital tracking, before emails, when every stamp was a contract between the sender and the postal service. So who collects these stamps? Postage due stamps appeal to a niche but passionate group of philatelists. Some focus exclusively on postal history, while others enjoy building entire albums around auxiliary markings and postage due labels. In fact, postage due stamps open the door to one of the most fascinating aspects of stamp collecting: covers. A cover bearing a 2-cent postage due stamp, especially if it's dated and has a story behind it, can be far more valuable than the stamp itself. Some of these covers, particularly from early 20th century or unusual postal routes, can sell for $20 to $200 or more, depending on condition, destination, and markings. When collecting postage due stamps, be sure to look closely for signs of authenticity and preservation. Since these stamps were often roughly handled or applied by postal clerks under pressure, finding a clean, well-centered copy in mint condition is rarer than you'd expect. This is especially true for earlier issues. Be sure to store them in acid-free albums or mounts and use stamp tongs when handling them to preserve their value. So to recap, the United States 2-cent postage due stamp may not carry the glamour of airmail or commemorative issues, but it holds a powerful place in the narrative of postal history. From routine domestic deliveries to international mail shortfalls, this small stamp kept the wheels of communication turning. In today's market, it remains affordable, most examples valued between a few cents and $10, but its educational and historical value is priceless. It's a gateway to understanding how mail was processed, taxed, and delivered in the early 20th century. And that's what makes postage due stamps so special. They are reminders of accountability, of rules, of human error, and the systems created to fix them. They're simple, bold, and functional, yet behind every single one is a story worth exploring. Thank you for tuning in to Stamps Old World UK, where we bring history back to life through the eyes of rare and remarkable stamps. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you never miss another deep dive into philatelic history. Let us know in the comments if you have any postage due stamps in your collection or if you've ever come across a surprising cover bearing one of these intriguing stamps. Until next time, keep collecting, keep discovering, and remember, every stamp is a chapter in the story of the world.